Welcome back, guys, to another episode of Let's Talk, and today we're talking about Michael Chandler. Be sure to stay tuned to the end of the video, or if you want to, just fast forward to the end of the video to see what episode is coming up next. Alright, so Michael Chandler shows up to the UFC, knocks out Dan Hooker, does a nice backflip, calls out Khabib. Now, I know what happened a while ago. You're like, Sam, you're late to the party. No, I wasn't late to the party. I was rooting for Michael Chandler way back when he fought Benson Henderson. One of my favorite fights, by the way, when he fought Benson Henderson. The question I have for people is, why does Michael Chandler get so much disrespect? Now, I like Khabib's fighting style. I liked his wrestling style, and I liked a lot about what he said about respect and honor and so on. I, however, disagree with him entirely when he said it would have been, I don't want to put words in his mouth, so I remember exactly what he said. But paraphrasing, when he said it wouldn't have been right had Michael Chandler won the belt against Charles Oliveira. I said, well, you kind of shot yourself in the foot there because you vacated the belt, which is fine. You know, you can retire. I don't like when people say everyone needs to lose. I think people say they're the sorest losers on the planet. They hate seeing somebody else win. You need to lose to make me feel good. Envy. One of the sins God talks about a lot. But that's a different story. I will make a video about envy, though. But why is Chandler so disrespected? And because people have double standards. That's why. They hold UFC fighters to one standard. I'm not saying everybody does, but some people do this. They hold UFC fighters to one standard, and then they hold other champions to another standard. Now, why do they do this? Let's just break it down. First, there's a business reason behind it. Dana White is always going to say he has the best on the planet. Why not unify the belts then? If you have the best, unify the belts. I think it was Chael Sonnen who said it. He said, you know, guys are lying when they say they're not afraid to fight a guy, but he's too beneath them when they're being offered millions of dollars. If you are going to pay me $2 million to beat somebody who stands absolutely no chance against beating me, I'm going to take that money and beat that person in about 30 seconds. You know, Roberto Duran used to say it when he fought. He said, whether we fight for 15 rounds or whether we fight for 15 seconds, we're going to get paid the same amount of money. So I go out there, boom, knock him out, and I go out and have food with my friends. That's what his game plan was. So I remember when Chandler was first going to show up, and if I can find the comments, I'll post them for you guys here. But leading up to that, I said, Chandler's going to beat Hooker. Chandler's going to beat Hooker. And I wasn't wishing it. I really believed he could beat Hooker because basic striking, people talk about how Chandler striking is basic. I'm like, that's all you need to win. You don't need Adesanya's nice strikes to win. You don't need Luke Rockhold's question mark kicks to win. Basic stuff works just fine. Even against the elite guys. So when they were saying he was going to lose because Hooker was too tall and Hooker's too big, blah, 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 blah. First punch Chandler throws, boom, puts Hooker away. Then the excuses pour out. Like a child's birthday wish list. Well, Hooker's not elite, so that doesn't count. Chandler's still nothing. Well, he just went to war with Dustin Poirier, so that's why. Now, I'll give him that one, because those guys did go to war. But, you know, it wasn't like he got destroyed for 5 rounds. It wasn't like it was Qatar versus Holloway. Matter of fact, that fight was very close. I had it almost a draw when I watched it. I was like, wow, you guys said 3-2 Poirier, but it's kind of close. Slight edge towards Poirier. I forgot which round it was. I think it was the 3rd round. But I think it was the round when, if I recall correctly, Poirier took down Hooker and Hooker reversed it, or Poirier attempted to take down Hooker and Hooker took him down. Something like that happened. But I thought it was close. I believe I scored the fight a draw, but I said a slight edge towards Poirier, like a few more seconds of control time, and it should be that meticulous. That's fine. If you're a judge, that's your job. If he wins a few more seconds, then give him the round. It's point fighting. That's how it works. But people were saying Hooker's not elite, so it doesn't matter. Let me tell you guys something. Non-elite fighters, sorry, said that wrong. Elite fighters do not train with non-elite fighters to prepare to fight other guys. #1 contenders do not struggle or go to war with non-elite fighters. They roll over them. They steamroll them. There's no contest in between them. That's the point. If you have people who are top 10, anybody in the top 10, for the most part, I understand stylistic matchups, but this is, you know, well-rounded. For the most part, they're going to struggle with each other. I like how one guy put it. He said the margin between the top 10, or he was talking about wrestlers, my bad. So he said like the top 100 best wrestlers on the planet, the difference is like 0.5%. People think that the #1 guy is 10 times better than the #10 guy. That's not how it works. If we go by that measurement, he said 0.5%, that means the number 1 guy is only 5% better than the number 10 guy, or 4.5%. In between them, there's like 4.5%. He's like 5% better than him. That's a small margin. That's 95 to 100. That's a very close gap. And that's how it is. The top 10 guys, there's a very, very small margin between them. When the numbers are good, because some lists don't make sense to me. I'm like, some people who are in the top 10 shouldn't be there, and some people who are in the top 30 need to be in that position. But we're not going to go too deeply into that. I'm just going to look at that right now. Was Hooker a legit win? Yes, he was. Because, like I said, he went to war with Dustin Poirier. That proves it. He is the main sparring partner of Israel Adesanya, who is dominating middleweights. You are training with a lightweight and dominating middleweights. That lightweight is elite. There's a reason you're training with him. You're not going to do it with somebody who doesn't give Chandler his respect. He beat a legit fighter when he beat Hooker. I said in my last video, I don't like calling people cans, and I don't. But he beat a guy who has some good skills. He beat a guy whose chin had been tested, because Poirier can pop. He beat a guy whose grappling has been tested. He beat a guy who trains with an undefeated at middleweight world champion, a world-class kickboxer. You know, he trains, he's the main sparring partner of this guy. Yeah, he is an elite fighter. And yeah, he can handle the pressure. Chandler was a better striker that night. And like I said, his basic striking wins. You know, he uses his short stature to his advantage, because you've got to come down to hit him, and that puts you right in line, that big overhand right, which I think he's knocked out 10 people before, if I'm correct. A couple of TKOs here and there, but you know, he's a finisher. Chandler's for the most part a finisher. He's always looking for the finish anyway. So let's move on. He goes and fights Charles Oliveira. Comes out, great first round. Some people argue it could have been a 10-8 round. Not quite. Like I said, to me, you don't need to destroy the guy to make a 10-8 round. Basically, 10-7 rounds or 10-6 rounds are rounds that should have been stopped but weren't. 10-8 rounds are just when you dominate. If you shut them down completely and they don't win any exchanges, to me, that should be a 10-8 round. But, you know, I think there was some back and forth there. So not necessarily a 10-8 round in my opinion, but a very clear 10-9. Like, no maybe about it. I don't know anybody on the planet who would have given Charles Oliveira that round. And he almost knocked him out, so that's probably why some people felt it should have been a 10-8. So we could argue that was good. Then comes out and gets knocked out in the second round. Now, a lot of people are asking, well, why did that happen? This proved that his chin is completely gone because Charles Oliveira has no punching power. Okay, look, just because somebody wins a lot of fights by submission doesn't mean they have no knockout power. If I recall correctly, one of my favorite fighters, Rose Namajunas, once upon a time, didn't have too many finishes by punches or strikes on her record. She knocked out Joanna, who'd been through some wars. And then you hear crickets when you ask people why that happened. Well, because contrary to your personal belief, fighters can get better. Therefore, that's why it happened. So I'm not saying Charles Oliveira has no pop, but Charles Oliveira, he's got long arms, you know. And also, if you look at that, when he hit him, Chandler made a big rookie mistake. He turned his head away from his opponent. When you don't see that punch coming, my coach just said it day before yesterday. He said, I don't care how big or how tough or how strong you are, even how good your chin is. When you're not looking at the strike that's coming, it's the punch that knocks you out. Everybody knows that. That's why fighters who have a lot of knockouts, if you notice, they're big on feinting. You know, Joe Valtellini talks about it all the time. He uses feints to set up those power kicks and those power punches. Because if I make you think to block this, even if you're looking at me, you're thinking, oh, an uppercut's coming. So you either move your head to get out the way of the uppercut, or you move your hand to block that uppercut, and that exposes what I was really aiming for. Boom! And if you're sharp enough, follows right up to the follow-up is going to knock the person out. So Chandler is about to go fight Justin Gaethje. Now, I'll go more in depth to that fight later on, but personally, I think that's 60-40 with 60% in favor of Chandler. Or actually, nah, we'll say 55-45. The only reason I'm saying is that, though, is because I do think that with all the wars that Chandler has been in, his chin has taken damage. Your chin doesn't get better over time. Some guys have a chin, like the Diaz brothers, they have a chin like the life of a battery. You know, it goes down a bit, it stays here for a long time, and then eventually it starts to go down nice and slow. Some guys have a chin like a capacitor. You know, as soon as it hits, it starts declining right away. It's always, you know, less and less and less. Whereas, you know, the Diaz brothers, sometimes they'll go in there and go to war with the guy who hits harder and stand up just as much. So they're kind of like that. That's how I look at some people's chin life. Like some people, once it's gone, that's it. You know, like Liddell and, you know, Rockhold, I don't think he's 100% there yet, but I think if he keeps taking damage the way he does before, he's getting there. But, you know, he used to be, people used to give him credit for having a good chin. You know, watch his old Strikeforce fights. People said, oh, look at the chin on Rockhold. Nobody's going to say that nowadays. But, once Liddell was gone, that was pretty much it. Roy Jones, that's what I was thinking of. Roy Jones and Liddell. Once the chin was gone, that was it. You didn't have to hit him with too much power to put him away. I don't think Chandler's quite there yet either. Like I said, I do believe the biggest reason he got knocked out the way he did was because he was looking away when that punch landed. If his chin was still better, in my opinion, I'd have it 70-30 against Gaethje. Because I really do believe that Gaethje has a bit more of a pressure chance. I don't like saying puncher chance, like one punch is going to do it, but since he's a pressure fighter, he's going to come forward. He has a better chance. I don't think that Gaethje's going to be able to stuff Chandler's takedowns. I believe Chandler's going to put him on his back whenever he wants to. Chandler can go 5 rounds, and he'll get bloody, and it'll be rough, and it's going to be a war, and he'll keep on grinding out. But I don't think Gaethje's going to be able to stuff his takedowns. Most of the time when he's training with Kamaru Usman even, people say, well, you trained with Kamaru. I'm like, yeah, but I haven't seen him. I'm not saying they don't. I haven't seen a whole lot of grappling footage, and they probably still grapple. I'm not saying they don't grapple. I just really believe that he is focused a whole lot on the striking aspect of the game, and the fact that he doesn't practice it as much under pressure makes a difference. Being under pressure, you make lots of mistakes. DC, great wrestler. When he fought Anthony Johnson, he made 2 mistakes inside of in the first round, the first time they fought. When he dropped his hand and Johnson dropped him, and then we took Johnson down and put him against the cage. Now, he was in a bad position, DC was, to finish that takedown. Because Johnson still had his chest really high, and DC's ankle was right there. He could have grabbed the ankle and gotten up. But under the pressure, Johnson wasn't thinking straight. Then DC did what he should have done when he first took him down. He put his buttocks right on top of his heels. First thing my coach showed me in wrestling, he said, grab that heel, and they're not going to be able to take you down, or you'll be able to escape. And then the next thing he showed us, sit on your heels so nobody can grab your heels. But then DC, guys composure, said, okay, change position, pulled his heels in underneath his buttocks. And Johnson couldn't get out that way. So under pressure, if you're not training for that, you're going to make those mistakes. So Chandler versus Gaethje, I feel that if it weren't for, a bit of compromise, a bit of his chin being compromised, he'd be able to beat Gaethje more soundly. I do think, like I said, it's about 55-45 now. I'm not saying Gaethje can't fight. I'm not saying he's not a good striker. The leg kicks, I feel, are going to be the big difference because I don't think that Chandler's really faced anybody who throws the leg kicks like that. But again, Gaethje's wrestling has for a long time been suspect. People say, well, look at what he did with Dustin Poirier. Dustin Poirier isn't known for his wrestling. He can wrestle, but that's not what he's known for. He likes to stand up. Not that a lot of these guys can wrestle. They have the time to train the wrestling. They prefer to keep it stand up. It's not like there's some special pill. Why did Khabib get so good at wrestling? Because that's what he focused on. He applied himself to that. These guys are applying themselves to striking. And in their case, it's because they know they're going to sell out arenas when they do it. Because, when this fight was announced, people were like, oh yeah, we're going to get 2 guys to stand in front of each other and fight. But, like I said, Chandler also has really good wrestling. So, why does Chandler get the disrespect? I think it's because a lot of people were upset that he won the way he did when he showed up in the UFC. And because he was never, the Bellator belt to them means absolutely nothing. That's why he's disrespected. People aren't looking at him as, hey, this is a 3-time world champion coming into the sport. They're saying this is a guy this is what they're saying, in some whacked organization that wants to be the UFC, that's only fought cans and has fought nobodies, and he has a belt that he got at McDonald's Happy Meal, so therefore it doesn't matter. He should start from the bottom and work his way up, just like everybody else did. Which is unfair, of course. Therefore, that's why he's disrespected. Because people think that way. Now, there are a lot of people who I respect when he knocked out Hooker who said, I was wrong. I will swallow all my words. Chandler's legit because Hooker is a legit contender. And that is some humility right there. I don't like the disrespect that Chandler gets. He's one of my favorite fighters stylistically wise. Outside the ring, from what I've seen, I like the way he carries himself. And, he's straightforward. He comes to fight. He asked for the hard fights. Who in that division is asking to fight Justin Gaethje openly like he is after coming off of a knockout loss? Who does that? Be like, hey, I want to fight Gaethje next. Not a lot of people doing that. But like I said, and he's not asking for the easy fights. He wanted Khabib. And I agree with him, especially a couple years ago when he said it. Like I said, before any more damage happened, I think that a fight against Chandler and Khabib would have been more competitive than Gaethje versus Khabib was. Because Chandler does indeed have the wrestling, and he used the wrestling. Because people talk about, hey, Gaethje trained with Kamaru. Guess what? Chandler trained with Kamaru as well. Again, I say, just like I was saying earlier about Dan Hooker training with Adesanya, making him legit. If Chandler had absolutely no skills, if he was not a challenge to train with, Kamaru would not have been bothering to grapple with him. Maybe once, twice out of respect, be like, okay, we're all here, fine, I'll grapple with you. But when you're getting ready for a fight, you need to test yourself. You got to get better. You're going to do it with somebody who's actually going to give you a struggle. You know, the first day of wrestling class when I went there, I wasn't trying to look for the smaller guys or the newer guys to go grapple with. I'm like, who's been here the longest? You know, who's done some college wrestling? I asked the coach to grapple with me one day because I actually hit one of my, hit the guy I was training with, accidentally kneed him, sorry, shinned him. We weren't wearing cups, so I actually shinned him low. So while he said it, I said, hey coach, can you come grapple with me while he's doing it? You know, I need the people who are better than me who can beat me up so I can get better. So, no guys, Hooker was legit. The win against him was legit. Chandler is legit. The belts matter. You know, people want to say now they really don't matter because Chandler lost to Patricio and Patricio lost to AJ. And I don't think AJ could fight. Therefore, that means, well, no one cares about your opinion. If you don't think AJ could fight, why don't you go fight him? Now, that's one thing I think that would shut a lot of people up. All the other organizations, they should do that. They're like, okay, look, anybody in the crowd who thinks that we just can't fight, we will pay you if you can win, kind of like Bully Beatdown. If you can last one round, we'll give you $10,000 against one of our guys. And I believe that the fighters are so good that they can control that person whenever they want to, so they can finish him whenever they want to inside that 5 minutes. Give them their respect, guys. You know, people talk about how you make the sport look bad when you do this, when you do that. When you, even as organizations, say other guys can't fight, I think it's disrespectful when you refuse to unify the belts. And yes, I am saying that's one thing I didn't like that Dana did, because he says he had the best in the world, but he refuses to do unification belts. There's only one reason you would do that, and that's because you're concerned one of your guys are going to lose, or one of your gals. So, you know, if you're going to not say that, that's cool. You don't need to say it. You can keep doing your thing. But when you do say we have the best, but we're never going to unify belts, what's up with that? So, you know, look forward to watching Chandler versus Gaethje, and see you guys in the next one.